July 1982. I'm standing in Dallas with $60 in my pocket, everything I own in my car, and no plan except to not go back home broke. 6 years later, I sold my first company for $6 million. 11 years after that, I sold my second company for $5.7 billion. I'm going to show you the exact system I used. This isn't a story about getting lucky. This isn't a story about being in the right place at the right time. This is a story about a system I built when I had nothing that still works now that I have everything. A system built from sleeping on floors, eating ketchup sandwiches, and making choices that nobody else was willing to make. The same system I use today for every investment, every business decision, every opportunity I evaluate. And I'm breaking it down step by step so you can use it starting today. 2,190 hours. That's how long I slept on the floor of a 3-bedroom apartment in Dallas that I shared with 5 other guys. I know the exact number because I counted. Not because I was keeping track for some future story. Because when you're sleeping on a floor, you count everything, every hour, every dollar, every opportunity. Most people hear that and think it sounds terrible. Poor Mark Cuban sleeping on the floor. But that floor was the best business school I ever attended. That floor taught me principles that MBA programs don't teach. That floor built habits that made me billions. Because when you have nothing, you see everything clearly. No distractions, no comfort, no safety net, just pure focus on one thing: survival first, then success. I moved to Dallas in 1982 with $60 in my pocket. I'd been living in Pittsburgh, trying different jobs, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I wasn't making it work. I was 24 years old and going nowhere. So I made a decision. I was moving to Dallas. Why Dallas? Because I had a friend there who said I could crash at his place until I figured things out. That friend had a 3-bedroom apartment with 5 other people already living there, 6 guys total in 3 bedrooms. I got the floor in the living room. No bed, no privacy, no comfort. Just a sleeping bag on carpet that smelled like old beer and broken dreams. Most people would have seen that as rock bottom. I saw it as a clean slate. No overhead, no rent, no excuses. Every single dollar I made could go toward building something instead of maintaining comfort. The other guys in that apartment, they had normal jobs. They worked 9 to 5. They came home and watched TV. They went out drinking on weekends. They were living their lives. I was building mine. While they slept in beds, I slept on the floor and used the difference in rent to buy books about technology and business. While they watched TV at night, I read those books and planned. While they went out on weekends, I worked on ideas. That floor was my advantage, not my disadvantage, because it meant I had nothing to lose, no comfort to protect, no lifestyle to maintain, no status to defend, just pure hunger and complete freedom to take risks nobody else would take. Want to know what that floor taught me? The first principle of the system that took me from $60 to billions. Being broke is a filter. It automatically eliminates every opportunity that doesn't directly lead to money. You can't afford to waste time on things that might work eventually. You can't afford to network at events that don't produce revenue. You can't afford to work on passion projects that don't pay bills. When you have money, you can afford to be strategic. You can afford to play long games. You can afford to build relationships that might pay off in 5 years. When you're broke, you can't afford any of that. You need money today, this week, this month. Most people see that as a limitation. It's actually a superpower because it forces you to focus on the only thing that matters: revenue, customers, money in the bank. Everything else is noise. My first job in Dallas was selling software to corporate clients. I was terrible at it. I knew nothing about sales, nothing about the industry, nothing about Dallas. But I had one advantage: desperation. I needed every commission check. I couldn't afford to lose sales, so I worked harder than everyone else. I'd get to the office before anyone else, stay later than everyone else, make more calls than everyone else, take meetings others turned down, follow up when others gave up. Not because I was more talented, because I had no choice. That floor was waiting for me every night. That was my motivation. Within months, I was the top salesperson, not because I was good at sales, because I was desperate enough to outwork everyone. Desperation isn't pretty, but it's effective. It's a forcing function that eliminates everything except what works. Rich people can afford to try 10 things and see which one works. Broke people have to try one thing and make it work. That focus, that necessity, that desperation, it creates an intensity that wins every single time. The system I built starts with this principle. Eliminate everything except direct revenue generation. Cut all activities that don't produce money. Focus completely on getting customers. Nothing else matters until money is coming in. This sounds obvious, but most people don't do it. They spend time on branding, on networking, on planning, on preparing, all while making no money. Desperation taught me to skip all that. Get customers first, everything else second. That principle alone is worth millions. But the floor taught me something even more valuable. When you have no money, all you have is energy. That's it. That's your only asset, your only resource, your only advantage. So where you spend that energy determines everything. I had 16 to 18 hours of energy every day. That's what was available after sleeping on a floor with 5 other guys making noise at all hours. So I had to make every hour count, because wasted energy meant wasted opportunity. And wasted opportunity meant staying broke. Most people leak energy constantly. They spend energy on things that don't matter, on drama, on distractions, on comfort, on entertainment. They wake up with a full tank of energy and drain it on nothing, then wonder why they're not getting ahead. When I was sleeping on that floor, I couldn't afford to leak energy. Every ounce went toward one goal, making money. I didn't go out, didn't party, didn't watch TV, didn't waste time on anything that didn't move me forward. Not because I was disciplined, because I couldn't afford not to be. That floor taught me energy economics. You have a limited amount each day. Where you invest it determines your results. Invested in revenue generation, you get revenue. Invested in comfort, you get comfortable but broke. Invested in entertainment, you get entertained but stuck. Rich people protect their energy like it's their most valuable asset, because it is. Broke people waste it like it's unlimited. It's not. You get one tank per day, use it wisely, or stay broke. I tracked my energy for months when I was on that floor. Every evening, I'd write down where my energy went that day. How much went to work? How much went to learning? How much went to planning? How much leaked to distractions? That tracking alone changed everything. Because you can't manage what you don't measure. Most people never track their energy. They just live day to day. Wonder why they're exhausted with nothing to show for it. The system requires tracking. You need to know where your energy is going, because energy is the only currency that matters when you're building from zero. But tracking energy taught me something unexpected. Something about the difference between motion and progress. 6 weeks into living in Dallas, sleeping on that floor, working my sales job, I had an idea. I could start my own company. Sell computer systems directly to businesses. Cut out the middleman. Make more money per sale. Build something that was mine. Most people would have planned for months. Build a business plan, raise capital, prepared. I had a different approach. Get the first customer. Everything else can wait. I didn't register a business, didn't get an office, didn't print business cards, didn't build a website. I picked up the phone and called potential customers. Told them I could save them money on their computer systems. Set up meetings, made pitches, closed deals. That first customer paid me $250. $250. I remember that number because it was the most important money I've ever made. Not the $6 million from selling MicroSolutions, not the $5.7 billion from selling broadcast.com. That first $250, because that first dollar proves the concept, that first sale proves someone will pay you, that first customer proves you can actually do this. Everything after that is just scaling what works. Most people obsess over perfection before they start. They want everything ready, everything polished, everything professional, so they never start. Or they start months later when the opportunity is gone. The system doesn't work that way. The system starts with getting paid. Once someone pays you, you're in business. Before someone pays you, you're just playing business. There's a massive difference. That first $250 taught me more than 4 years of college ever did. It taught me I could sell. It taught me I could deliver. It taught me I could compete. It taught me I didn't need permission or credentials or resources. I just needed customers willing to pay. From that moment, I became obsessed with the first dollar. Not the last dollar, not the biggest dollar, the first dollar. Because the first dollar of any opportunity tells you if it's real or not. The first dollar validates or invalidates instantly. The first dollar is the truth. I use this principle today evaluating businesses on Shark Tank. I don't care about projections. I don't care about potential. Show me your first dollar. Show me that customers actually pay you, because ideas are worthless. Executed ideas that generate revenue are valuable. The floor taught me this principle through necessity. I couldn't afford to work on things that didn't produce revenue, so I only worked on things after they produced revenue. After someone paid me, after I had proof. That filter saved me from countless wastes of time. Want to know what happened once I had that first customer? That first customer led to a second. The second led to a third. Within a few months, I had enough customers to quit my day job. I started MicroSolutions officially, but I still had no office. No employees, no overhead, just me sleeping on a floor, running a business out of a car. I made a decision that most people thought was crazy. Every customer got a 100-hour guarantee. If I sold you a computer system, I'd support it personally for 100 hours. No charge, no limits. If it broke at 2 a.m., call me. If you needed training at 6 a.m., I'd be there. 100 hours of my time, free. People told me I was giving away too much, that I'd never scale, that I'd burn out. They were wrong. That guarantee was the smartest business decision I ever made. Because 100 hours with a customer taught me everything about their business, their pain points, their workflows, their needs. After 100 hours, I knew their business better than their own employees did. And when I knew their business that well, I could sell them more, better, faster. Most businesses try to minimize customer contact. They see support as a cost center. I saw it as a competitive advantage. While my competitors were avoiding customers, I was learning from them. While they were cutting support hours, I was adding them. While they were trying to scale fast, I was building deep relationships. That floor taught me to trade time for knowledge. I had nothing but time. No social life, no distractions, no commitments, just time and energy. So I traded it for the most valuable thing in business, understanding what customers actually need. The 100-hour guarantee turned customers into evangelists. They told everyone about this crazy guy who'd show up at midnight to fix their computers, who trained their employees for free, who cared more about their success than his own convenience. That word of mouth built my business faster than any advertising ever could. Most people protect their time like it's scarce. When you're building from zero, time is abundant. Money is scarce, so trade abundant time for scarce money. Simple economics, but most people get it backwards. They try to save time and wonder why they can't make money. That 100-hour guarantee created another unexpected benefit. It forced me to choose customers carefully because I knew I'd be spending 100 hours with them, so I only sold to customers I actually wanted to work with. Customers who valued service. Customers who would pay fairly. Customers who would stick around. That filter alone made MicroSolutions more profitable than competitors. They'd sell to anyone. I'd sell only to the right customers. They'd chase volume, I'd chase quality. They'd race to the bottom on price, I'd win on value. All because that floor taught me my time was my most valuable asset. Want to know what happened when I combined these principles? 1983 to 1990. 7 years building MicroSolutions. 7 years of 18-hour days. 7 years of sleeping on floors, then in cheap apartments, then eventually in a house I bought when the business could afford it. 7 years of trading sleep for execution. Most people talk about work-life balance. I didn't have that luxury. I had work-life integration. My life was work. Work was my life. I wasn't trying to balance them. I was trying to win. And winning required everything I had. I'd wake up at 6 a.m., work until midnight, sleep 6 hours, repeat. No weekends, no vacations, no breaks, 7 years straight, 18-hour days. 126 hours per week. 6,552 hours per year. 45,864 hours total over 7 years. While my competitors worked 40-hour weeks, I worked 126-hour weeks. That's 3 times the output, 3 times the learning, 3 times the execution, 3 times the progress. That gap compounded into an insurmountable advantage. People ask me how I competed with bigger companies that had more resources. I outworked them. They had money. I had time. They had employees. I had intensity. They had process. I had speed. Different weapons. Same war. My weapons won. The floor taught me that sleep is negotiable. Comfort is negotiable. Entertainment is negotiable. But execution is not. Results are not. Progress is not. You either execute or you don't. You either make progress or you don't. Everything else is just excuses. I'm not saying don't sleep. I'm saying there's a season for everything. When you're building from zero, that season requires sacrifice. It requires trading short-term comfort for long-term success. It requires doing what others won't so you can have what others don't. Most people aren't willing to make that trade. They want the success without the sacrifice. They want the billion-dollar exit without the 18-hour days. They want the championship without the training. Doesn't work that way. Never has, never will. By 1990, MicroSolutions was generating $30 million in annual revenue. I had 85 employees. I had built something real from sleeping on a floor with $60 in my pocket. CompuServe offered to buy the company for $6 million. I took the deal. 7 years on the floor, 7 years of 18-hour days, $6 million exit. Most people would have retired, celebrated, taken a break. I saw it differently. I just got proof of concept. I just validated the system. I just learned how to go from zero to millions. Time to do it again, but bigger. Want to know what I did with that $6 million? Selling MicroSolutions taught me something critical. I had a system that worked. Not luck, not timing. A replicable system. I could see the pattern clearly. Start with nothing. Focus on revenue generation only. Trade time for knowledge. Outwork everyone. Get the first customer. Obsess over the first dollar. Build deep relationships. Execute faster than others. Prepare. Trade sleep for progress. Scale what works. That's it. That's the system. Simple. Not easy, but simple. And I'd just proven it worked. $60 to $6 million in 7 years. So the question was, could I do it again? Could I 10x it? Could I go from $6 million to $60 million or even bigger? I spent months after selling MicroSolutions analyzing what worked and what didn't. What principles were universal? What tactics were specific to that business? What I'd keep, what I'd change. What I'd amplify. The core system was sound. But I'd learned new things. I'd learned about scaling, about hiring, about culture, about competition, about markets. I'd learned from 7 years in the trenches. All that knowledge was now available for the next venture. Most people never analyze their successes. They just celebrate and move on. That's a waste. Your successes contain patterns. Those patterns are your system. Extract the patterns, codify them, replicate them. That's how you go from one success to multiple successes. I wrote down every principle I'd used to build MicroSolutions, every decision that worked, every pattern that repeated, every edge I'd found. That document became my playbook, my system, my unfair advantage. Then I started looking for the next opportunity, not just any opportunity. An opportunity where my system could work, an opportunity where the patterns I discovered could apply, an opportunity where I could 10x the previous result. That search led me to something most people thought was crazy in 1995. Streaming audio over the internet. Nobody was doing it. Nobody thought it would work. The technology barely existed. Perfect opportunity for someone with nothing to lose and everything to prove. Want to know how I applied the same system to a completely different industry? 1,995. The internet is exploding, but nobody's streaming audio successfully. Radio stations want to broadcast online but don't know how. I saw the opportunity immediately. Same system, different industry, I started broadcast.com with my partner Todd Wagner. Same approach as MicroSolutions. Get customers first, everything else second. We didn't wait for perfect technology. We used what existed and made it work. We didn't wait for capital. We started with what we had. We didn't wait for the right time. We started now. The first customer was a radio station in Dallas. They paid us $10,000 to stream their broadcast online. That first dollar, that validation, that proof of concept, same pattern as MicroSolutions. From there, we scaled. But this time, I had an advantage. I had $6 million from selling MicroSolutions. I didn't need to sleep on floors anymore. I could afford an office, employees, resources. But I kept the same intensity, same work ethic, same focus, same obsession with execution. I applied the 100-hour guarantee concept differently. Instead of guaranteeing 100 hours to each customer, I guaranteed we'd figure out their problems. No matter how long it took, no matter how hard it was, we'd make it work. That commitment attracted customers who valued reliability over price. We worked 18-hour days, not because we had to, because that's what the system required, because that's what winning looked like. Because our competitors were working 40 hours and we needed the edge. By 1998, broadcast.com was broadcasting over 600 radio stations, 30 television stations, and had 18 million visitors per month. We'd grown from nothing to the leading audio streaming company in 3 years. Same system, different scale. Yahoo saw what we'd built. They made an offer, $5.7 billion. I took it. 3 years from start to $5.7 billion exit. Same system that took me from $60 to $6 million. Just bigger, just faster, just proof that the system worked. Most people think that's where the story ends. Rich guy sells company for billions, retires, enjoys life. That's not how systems work. The system doesn't stop. It compounds. Want to know what I did with $5.7 billion? After selling broadcast.com, I had a choice. Retire or keep going. Most people retire. I saw it differently. I just validated the system at scale. $60 to $6 million to $5.7 billion. The pattern was clear. The system worked at every level. So I started applying it to investing. Same principles, same approach, different execution. I started investing in businesses where I could add value, where the system could help, where the patterns I'd learned applied. I bought the Dallas Mavericks, applied the system, focused on reducing stress for players and staff, focused on execution over planning, focused on outworking other organizations. The Mavericks won the championship in 2011. Same system, different game. I joined Shark Tank, applied the system to evaluating businesses. Look for the first dollar. Look for execution over ideas. Look for founders who outwork their competition. Look for businesses solving real problems. Same system, different application. Every investment I make goes through the same filter. Does this founder have the hunger? Are they willing to outwork everyone? Do they obsess over customers? Do they execute fast? Do they have their first dollar? If yes, I invest. If no, I pass. The system I built sleeping on a floor in 1982 still works in 2025, still produces results, still separates winners from dreamers, because the principles are universal. They work in any industry. At any scale, in any time period, most people think success is about finding the right opportunity. It's not. It's about having the right system and applying it to opportunities. The system creates the success, not the opportunity. You can have the best opportunity in the world and fail if you don't have a system. You can have an average opportunity and win massively if you have a great system. The system is everything. The opportunity is just the playing field. Want to know the exact system broken down into steps you can use starting today? I've built $3 billion outcomes using the same 7 principles. These aren't theory. These are the actual system, the actual patterns, the actual formula. Principle 1, get the first dollar before anything else. Don't plan, don't prepare, don't perfect. Get paid, get a customer, get revenue, prove the concept. Everything else can wait. The first dollar is truth. Everything before the first dollar is just hope. Principle 2, trade abundant resources for scarce resources. When you're starting, time is abundant and money is scarce. Trade time for money. Work longer, learn faster, execute more. When you have money, time becomes scarce. Trade money for time, hire people, automate processes, buy speed. Principle 3, focus only on revenue generation. Cut everything else. Every activity should directly lead to money. If it doesn't make you money, stop doing it. No exceptions. No justifications. Revenue is the only thing that matters when you're building from zero. Principle 4, outwork everyone in your space. Not by a little, by a lot. 2x to 3x their hours. 2x to 3x their effort. 2x to 3x their intensity. Create a gap so large they can't catch up. Make work ethic your unfair advantage. Principle 5, obsess over customer success. Your success comes from their success. The more value you create for customers, the more money you make. Simple equation, trade your time for their success. They'll pay you forever. Principle 6, execute faster than others prepare. While they're planning, you're doing. While they're researching, you're learning by doing. While they're getting ready, you're getting results. Speed beats perfect, always, every time. Principle 7, track everything that matters. You can't manage what you don't measure. Track revenue, track energy, track time, track results. Numbers don't lie, feelings do. Trust numbers over feelings, always. These 7 principles took me from $60 to $5.7 billion. They work at every level. They work in every industry. They work for anyone willing to apply them. But knowing them is different from using them, and that's where most people fail. Want to know exactly how to implement this starting today? Most people want to change their entire life overnight. It doesn't work that way. The system works through consistent application over time, but you can prove it works in 30 days. You can validate the system. You can see results. You can build momentum. I'm giving you a 30-day sprint, a focus period where you apply the system with complete intensity. No distractions, no excuses, no hesitation, 30 days all in. Want to know what happens when you actually do this? Days 1 to 7, focus only on getting your first dollar, not your 1,000th dollar, your first dollar. If you don't have a business, pick something you can sell, a service, a skill, a product. Doesn't matter what, just something someone will pay for. Then get that first customer. Spend all 7 days on this one task. Get paid. Days 8 to 14. Once you have your first dollar, get your second and third. Same approach, same intensity. But now you have proof it works. Now you have confidence. Now you have momentum. Use it. Stack customers. Stack revenue. Stack proof. Days 15 to 21. Track where your energy goes every day. Write it down. How much went to revenue generation? How much leaked to distractions? How much wasted on things that don't matter? The tracking itself changes behavior. You can't track wasted energy without feeling compelled to fix it. Days 22 to 30. Outwork your competition. Whoever you're competing against, work 2x their hours. If they work 8 hours, you work 16. If they work 40-hour weeks, you work 80-hour weeks. Make work ethic your edge. Create a gap they can't close. After 30 days, you'll have revenue, you'll have customers, you'll have momentum, you'll have proof the system works. Not eventually, right now, in 30 days. That's all it takes to validate. After that, it's just scaling what works. Most people won't do this. They'll make excuses. They'll say they don't have time. They'll say they can't work that hard. They'll say it's not realistic, and they'll stay exactly where they are. Broke, stuck, dreaming about success while others build it. The 5% who actually do this will see results immediately. Not because they're more talented, because they're more committed, because they're willing to do what 95% won't do. Want to know the exact exercise that helped me track my energy when I was sleeping on that floor? Every single night when I was sleeping on that floor, I'd do the same exercise. I'd pull out a notebook, draw 3 columns, label them revenue, learning, waste. Then I'd list every activity from that day, every meeting, every call, every task, every moment. And I'd categorize each one. Did it generate revenue? Did it teach me something valuable? Or did it waste energy? Revenue activities, sales calls, customer meetings, delivering service, solving customer problems, anything that directly led to money. Learning activities, reading about the industry, studying competitors, understanding technology, building skills, anything that made me more valuable tomorrow than today. Waste activities, everything else, watching TV, going out, sleeping late, complaining, drama, distractions, anything that didn't move me forward. At the end of each week, I'd add up the hours in each column. My goal was simple: 70% revenue, 20% learning, 10% or less waste. Those ratios built a billion-dollar company. Most people's ratios are inverted. 10% revenue, 20% learning, 70% waste. Then they wonder why they're not getting ahead. The ratios tell you everything. You don't need to guess why you're stuck. Just audit your energy. Do this exercise for 7 days straight. Be brutally honest. Track every hour. Categorize everything. Then look at your ratios. They'll tell you exactly why you're getting the results you're getting, and they'll show you exactly what needs to change. This exercise alone is worth tens of thousands of dollars because it makes the invisible visible. You think you're working hard. The audit shows you're not. You think you're focused. The audit shows you're scattered. You think you're making progress. The audit shows you're spinning wheels. Once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. Once you know where your energy is going, you have to face it. Change it or accept the results it's producing. Most people will see the truth and make excuses for it. Winners will see the truth and change based on it. The floor taught me this exercise because when you have nothing, you can't afford to waste anything. Every hour matters. Every ounce of energy matters. Every choice matters. Want to know what happened when I applied this level of tracking to everything? 2,190 hours sleeping on a floor doesn't sound impressive. It's just 6 months of uncomfortable nights. But those 2,190 hours taught me principles that created billions. Small edges, compounded over time, create massive advantages. Sleeping on the floor saved me $400 a month in rent. Over 6 months, that's $2,400 saved. I invested that $2,400 into books, into learning, into tools for my business. That $2,400 turned into knowledge that helped me build MicroSolutions. MicroSolutions sold for $6 million. That floor was worth millions. Working 18-hour days instead of 8-hour days gave me 10 extra hours per day. Over 7 years of building MicroSolutions, that's 25,550 extra hours. My competitors worked 14,560 hours over the same period. I worked 45,864 hours. That 31,304 hour advantage was insurmountable. They couldn't catch up. The gap was too large. Getting the first customer in week 1 instead of month 6 saved me 22 weeks. That's 22 weeks of revenue I had that competitors didn't. That's 22 weeks of learning from customers. That's 22 weeks of momentum. Small edge. Massive compounding. The 100-hour guarantee cost me time up front, but created customers for life. 1 customer became 5 referrals. 5 referrals became 25. The compound effect of word of mouth built faster than any advertising budget could have. Small edges compound into massive advantages, but only if you're patient enough to let them compound. Most people want instant results. They try something for a week and quit. They work hard for a month and wonder why they're not rich yet. They don't understand compound effects. Compound effects require time. They require consistency. They require stacking small wins daily until they become massive wins. The floor taught me patience. Not passive patience, active patience. Keep working, keep executing, keep building, trust the compound effect. When I sold broadcast.com for $5.7 billion, people said I got lucky. They saw the exit. They didn't see the 2,190 hours on the floor. They didn't see the 45,864 hours building MicroSolutions. They didn't see the 18-hour days building broadcast.com. They didn't see the small edges stacking into an insurmountable advantage. Luck is what people call compound effects. They didn't see building. The system creates those compound effects deliberately, intentionally, predictably. Want to know the hardest part of the system? The floor was lonely. While my roommates went out with friends, I stayed in working. While they watched TV, I read. While they slept, I planned. While they enjoyed their 20s, I built my future. That loneliness was necessary. Success requires isolation, not forever, but during the building phase, during the grinding phase, during the phase where you're creating something from nothing. Most people can't handle that isolation. They need social validation. They need to feel normal. They need to fit in. So they compromise. They go out when they should stay in. They relax when they should work. They choose present comfort over future success. I chose different. 6 months on that floor. 7 years building MicroSolutions. 3 years building broadcast.com. All of it required choosing isolation over inclusion. Choosing work over social life. Choosing future over present. People thought I was crazy. My friends from college were getting married, buying houses, living normal lives. I was sleeping on floors, working 18-hour days, building companies. They had social lives. I had a system. Different choices. Different outcomes. The hardest part wasn't the work. It was explaining to people why I was working, why I wasn't going out, why I wasn't dating, why I wasn't living like they were living. Most people don't understand sacrifice. They see you missing events and think you're antisocial. They see you working weekends and think you're obsessed. They see you choosing differently and think something's wrong with you. Nothing's wrong with you. You're just building something they're not. You're just willing to sacrifice what they won't. You're just playing a different game on a different timeline. That loneliness is the price of admission. If you can't handle being misunderstood, you can't build anything significant. If you need everyone's approval, you'll never make choices that separate you from everyone. If you need to fit in, you'll never stand out. The floor taught me to be comfortable being uncomfortable, to be okay with being alone, to find satisfaction in progress rather than in social acceptance. That comfort with discomfort became my greatest asset. Most people need external validation constantly. They need likes on social media. They need compliments from friends. They need approval from family. They need to feel normal. That need controls them, limits them, keeps them average. I learned to validate myself through results, through revenue, through progress, through execution. External validation is nice, but it's not necessary. Results are necessary. Everything else is optional. When you can operate without external validation, you become unstoppable. You make choices based on what works, not what people approve of. You take paths that make sense to you, not paths that make sense to others. You build based on your vision, not based on consensus. That independence, that willingness to be misunderstood, that comfort with isolation, it's the difference between building something significant and building something average. Want to know what I wish I'd known before I started? If I could go back to 1982, standing in Dallas with $60 in my pocket, sleeping on that floor, I'd tell myself one thing: you're exactly where you need to be. That floor isn't a setback, it's a setup. Young people today think they need resources to start. They think they need money, connections, credentials, experience. They're wrong. Those things help, but they're not required. All you need is hunger, a system, and willingness to outwork everyone. That floor gave me hunger, desperation, necessity, the drive that comes from having no other option. That's more valuable than any resource. Because resources run out, hunger doesn't. Hunger renews every day. You're not where you want to be. If I'd started with money, I would have wasted it. If I'd started with connections, I would have relied on them. If I'd started with credentials, I would have coasted on them. Starting with nothing forced me to build everything, to learn everything, to earn everything. That's the gift of starting from zero. You build real skills. You develop real resilience. You create real value. People who start with advantages often never develop the skills to create advantages. They inherit them. But inheritance runs out. Skills last forever. I tell my 24-year-old self to trust the process. The floor won't last forever. The 18-hour days won't last forever. The struggle won't last forever. But the principles you learn will. The system you build will. The person you become will. Every hour on that floor is building something, not just a business. You, your character, your work ethic, your resilience, your hunger, your system. All of it compounding into the person who can handle the success coming later. Most people want success without struggle. It doesn't work that way. The struggle is what builds you into someone capable of handling success. Skip the struggle, and success destroys you. Embrace the struggle, and success elevates you. That floor was my forge. Those 2,190 hours hammered out weaknesses and built strengths. Without that floor, I'm not ready for $6 million. Without $6 million teaching me, I'm not ready for $5.7 billion. Every level prepares you for the next. You can't skip levels. So if you're sleeping on floors right now, metaphorically or literally, good. You're exactly where you need to be. Use it, learn from it, build from it. Let it make you hungry. Let it make you focused. Let it make you unstoppable. Your floor is your advantage, not your limitation. See it that way, and everything changes. Want to know what separates people who use their floor as a springboard from people who use it as an excuse? The floor could have been my excuse. I could have blamed my circumstances. I could have said, I can't succeed because I have no money, no resources, no help, no advantages. That's what most people do. They externalize their situation. They make it about what's happening to them instead of what they're doing about it. I made a different choice. I internalized everything. If I wasn't making money, it was because I wasn't working hard enough. If I wasn't getting customers, it was because I wasn't making enough calls. If I wasn't learning fast enough, it was because I wasn't reading enough. Everything was on me. That shift from external blame to internal ownership changed everything. Because once you take full ownership, you gain full power. You stop being a victim and start being a creator. You stop waiting for circumstances to change and start changing circumstances. Most people give their power away by blaming external factors: the economy, the market, the competition, their background, their resources, all things they can't control. So they stay powerless, they stay stuck, they stay victims. Winners take power by owning everything, even things that aren't their fault, even things they didn't cause, even things they can't control. They ask, what could I do differently? How could I work harder? Where am I falling short? That ownership creates power. The floor taught me this lesson early. I could blame having no money, or I could work harder to make money. I could blame having no connections, or I could build connections. I could blame having no experience, or I could gain experience faster. Every external blame had an internal solution. That reframe from victim to creator is the most powerful mental shift you can make. It doesn't change your circumstances immediately, but it changes your trajectory permanently. Because victims stay stuck, creators build. When I look at businesses on Shark Tank, I can tell within minutes whether the founder is a victim or creator. Victims blame. They explain why things didn't work because of external factors. Creators own. They explain what they could have done better, what they learned, what they're changing. I invest in creators. I pass on victims. Because victims can't win. They've given their power away. They're controlled by circumstances. Creators win. They've taken their power back. They control their response to circumstances. Which one are you? Think about your last failure. Did you blame external factors, or did you own it completely? Your answer determines your trajectory, because the system only works for people who take full ownership. Want to know the final piece that makes everything work? I've given you the 7 principles. I've given you the 30-day sprint. I've given you the exercises. I've given you the patterns. I've given you everything that took me from $60 to $5.7 billion, but none of it works without one thing: action. You can understand every principle perfectly and stay broke. You can read this entire script and change nothing. You can nod along and agree with everything and never apply it. Knowledge without action is worthless. Understanding without execution is pointless. The system requires doing. Not thinking about doing, not planning to do, not preparing to do, doing. Taking action, executing, moving, building, shipping, selling, creating. Today, right now, immediately. That's what separated me from everyone else sleeping on floors in 1982. Lots of people were broke. Lots of people wanted success. Lots of people had dreams. I was the one who acted, who executed. Who built while others planned? Who shipped while others prepared? Who sold while others perfected? Action is the dividing line, the filter, the separator. Everyone understands. Few execute. Understanding puts you in the top 20%. Execution puts you in the top 1%. The gap between knowing and doing is where most people die. Don't die in that gap. The floor taught me to bias toward action. When in doubt, act. When unsure, test. When questioning, execute. Action produces data. Data produces learning. Learning produces improvement, but it all starts with action. Most people reverse this. They try to learn first, then they'll act. But you can't learn without action. You can't improve without data. You can't get data without execution. So they stay stuck in analysis paralysis forever. Thinking, planning, preparing, never doing. I made mistakes constantly, still do. But I made them while moving forward, while building, while executing. Each mistake taught me, corrected me, improved me, but only because I was in motion. You can't course correct while standing still. The system works. I've proven it multiple times. From $60 to $6 million to $5.7 billion, same system. Different scales, it works for anyone willing to apply it. But it only works if you actually apply it, if you take action, if you execute. So the question isn't whether the system works, the question is whether you'll work the system, whether you'll put in the 21-90 hours, whether you'll make the sacrifices, whether you'll choose isolation over inclusion, whether you'll outwork everyone, whether you'll focus on revenue only, whether you'll get your first dollar before anything else. Will you? Or will you just understand and do nothing? That's the only question that matters, because understanding this script changes nothing. Executing on it changes everything. 2,190 hours on a floor, $60 in my pocket. No connections, no resources, no advantages, just hunger and a system. That was my starting line. Where's yours? What's your floor? What's your $60? What's your disadvantage that's actually an advantage? What's your constraint that's actually freedom? What's your limitation that's actually a launching pad? Find it, embrace it, use it, because that's where the system starts. Not in comfort, not in abundance, not in perfect conditions, in struggle, in necessity, in desperation. That's where hunger lives. That's where focus comes from. That's where the system activates. You don't need better circumstances. You need better execution within your current circumstances. You don't need more resources. You need better use of the resources you have. You don't need perfect timing. You need to start now with imperfect timing. The floor is waiting. Your floor. Your version of sleeping with 5 roommates. Your version of having $60. Your version of starting from zero. Don't avoid it. Run toward it. Because that's where your billions are hiding. In the place you least want to be, doing the work nobody else wants to do, making the sacrifices others won't make. That's the system. That's how $60 becomes $5.7 billion. Not through luck, not through timing, through a system built from necessity, validated through execution, and scaled through repetition. The system is yours now. I've given you everything. The principles, the patterns, the exercises, the truth. What you do with it determines everything. Will you execute, or will you just understand? That answer determines whether you're reading about success or building it. Start now.